I've worked with over 300 SAT students, and most of them hit a plateau around 1200 or 1300 without ever realizing why. But a small percentage consistently breaks into the 1400 and 1500s. And it's not luck. They follow a precise strategy that targets exactly what to fix and nothing else. In this video, I'll walk you through the exact system top scorers use to make crazy score jumps without more hours, more stress, or more random practice. Most students think if I want a higher score, I need to do more full-length tests, more drills, more Khan Academy, but the reality is more practice doesn't always equal progress, right? The students who see real gains don't necessarily study harder. They study with surgical precision. They know exactly where they're losing points and they go straight to the fix. If you want to hit 1400 plus, 1500 plus, you need to stop prepping like a generalist and start thinking like a strategist. Here's some of the models that most SAT students use and why they don't work. The first one is the grind more mentality. Here, you do full test after full test, but you never actually stop to ask why your score is not moving. You never stop to actually understand where you're losing points. Number two, the YouTube rabbit hole. Here, you watch random videos, generic tips, but nothing is actually tailored to your actual weaknesses. Nothing is targeting what you're actually struggling with. Number three, the review everything trap. Here, you spend hours and hours reviewing basically everything instead of fixing the few things that are actually costing you hundreds of points. But you're shooting in the dark and hoping that one sticks. Without precision, you're just guessing, and guessing is what keeps you stuck. If you want to stop guessing and finally figure out exactly what's holding your score back, feel free to book a free strategy call using the link below. I'll help you create a custom plan based on your actual results, the target score, and how much time you have. Let's jump back to the video. Number one, the Socratic method. You've probably heard of students say things like, when the tutor went over it, when the teacher or professor was covering it, it made sense. I could understand everything perfectly. But when I tried to do it on my own, I froze. My mind went blank. I couldn't do it. Well, this is because we're professionals, right? Tutors, professors, they would make it look easy. But when you go and try to do it, that's when you realize that, wait a minute, it's not as easy as I thought. One way for the tutor to solve this is, instead of lecturing, well, they should ask the students questions to lead them to the answer. It would look like this. The students would, for example, say, can you solve this problem for me? Then what the tutor would say is, oh, how would you solve it? And then say, for example, the student says, okay, I'm going to do this and I'll do that. And, well, instead of the tutor just saying, no, that's wrong, the answer is this, they'll tell them, oh, why did you think that? So then from the student's explanation, well, then they'll be able to figure out exactly where the gaps are, what exactly it is that the students does not understand. That way they're able to pinpoint exactly where the misunderstanding is. Because most of the time, what they think they're struggling with is not really what the problem is. Perhaps it's something that they've learned 2, 3 years ago, when they were freshmen and now they're seniors, right? But asking them questions such as, oh, what did you think that? What would you do next? Right? It allows the tutor or the teacher to figure out exactly how the students thinks. That way they can pinpoint exactly where the missing links are. Another advantage of the Socratic method is the students cannot zone out. By constantly asking questions, by making it interactive, the students cannot zone out because they're always speaking, they're always solving the problems, they're always guiding the tutor or telling the tutor what they will be doing next, right? So as soon as they zone out, well, they can't zone out because the session will have to pause. Another advantage is when the tutor is lecturing instead of actually tutoring, the students could be 2 steps behind, right? They're playing catch up, but they wouldn't know because they're focused on just lecturing and speaking it. But when they're actually tutoring using the Socratic method, well, it allows them to move together, right? To move together and to ensure that the student is not falling behind. So that's the Socratic method. Number two, high impact tutoring? Well, instead of doing a session today and next session being next week on the same day, well, which is not enough to build momentum and to start recognizing patterns and to get familiar with those questions, right? Focus on doing a high frequency of sessions, for example, 3 sessions per week, which would be enough to really get familiar with those questions, to understand the concept, all of the concepts, because the SAT doesn't necessarily test you on just say, 11th grade or 12th grade. It's on basically everything you've learned since freshman. You need enough repetition to master those concepts, right? So, and then in between those sessions, you have homework that is assigned by your tutor that will focus on your weaknesses, not just homework to burden you, to overwhelm you, but to target your weaknesses and to kind of work on the problems that you didn't get to work on during your sessions, right? That way, you get to strengthen your understanding of those concepts outside of the session during sessions as well, right? This provides the structure necessary to see crazy jumps in scores such as these, right? Going from 1090 to 1400 in 21 days, or going from a 960 to 1200 in 4 weeks, going from a 1050 to 1510 in 8 weeks, right? This is only possible if you have a structure, if you have a solid plan on how to approach your SAT preparation and not just winging it. Another thing about high impact tutoring is that it's very data driven. You have to track progress. Are you improving every week? Are you doing mock test every week? Right? You could do every week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, right? It depends on what your starting point is. But as long as you're consistent with it and you're tracking your progress, you need to see an upward trend, right? You need to be improving over time. And it's not that you're just doing random problems, practicing, and then you show up to your test on your test day and hoping to see miracles, right? Well, if you're not progressing, if you're not seeing any progress, if you're not seeing real data on how you're improving over time, well, don't be surprised if you don't see any improvement when you take your actual SAT. And finally, regarding high impact tutoring, it focuses on a small group of student. It's not, you're not placed in a class of 30 students, right? This is maximum 3 students. One-on-one is great. 3 students, that's the max that you can go with high impact tutoring, because this then allows the students to get that personalized attention. And finally, mentorship. Mentorship can be really important when it comes to SAT preparation, because some students have mental blocks, right? They don't believe that they can do it, right? So when you have somebody who has reached the highest level of education in the world teaching your child or your student, right, it does something to their mindset, because most of the time when you think of someone who has gone to Harvard, Cornell, Columbia University, right, you think that, well, perhaps there's something magical about them. They're special. But when you talk to them, you see that, well, there is nothing special about them. They're just humans like me. And if those tutors teach your son or your daughter, if they were to tutor them every single week, 3 times a week, assigning them homework, giving them advice, tips on how to manage their time, tips on perhaps which extracurricular activities they should focus on. Because the last thing you want is for them to waste time doing activities that won't strengthen their application for college, right? I've had families that would, tell me that they were in the program where they had to take 30 classes because they thought that those classes were important for college. And when it came time to graduate, they realized that, well, those classes were not needed, right? The colleges told them that, well, they don't accept those classes. They just wasted time. If you have a mentor, if you have somebody to guide you through the process so that you're sure that you're doing the right thing, point you to, the right direction, showing you the scholarships available for your child, well, then you're 100% sure that you're doing the correct thing. Combining the Socratic method, high impact tutoring, and mentorship makes it impossible, unreasonable not to do great on your SAT. The SAT is not about memorization, especially the new digital SAT. It's a logic and strategy test. The College Board even admits that it's designed to test how you think under pressure, right? This is why the old way of doing more and more just leads to burnout. Right? In 2025, real gains come from clarity, and clarity comes from precision. If you want help identifying exactly what's holding your team score back and want to know what to fix first, book a first strategy call below. We'll map out a personalized SAT plan based on where you currently are, what your target is, and how much time you have left.